And now for another episode of Hey, I don't want to forget this! Storytime with Andy. Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of stuff, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat. The human drama of messing around with stuff. This is Casa de McBride Chronicles.
Well, everybody, welcome back to the show. We're going to see what Andy has to say in just a minute.
The History of the Lake House and Lakeland, read by a guy with a really important and serious English accent.
No, this is not my real voice. I am just playing around with this AI voice generator. If I sounded this proper, I would so call you a simpleton and demand you plow my fields.
1978.
Anyways, I am pretty sure Mr. Boyke told me that they bought the lot with his parents as owning the other half this year. It was bought with in mind that it was a place where his family and Grandpa and Grandma Boyke could go and relax.
1990 to 1992.
This was the first time Boyke invited me out there. I remember Donnie M., my friend from New York Marques, and Tim W. all went. Being that we were supervised, we just swam and that was it. Also, I think that same summer, the Boyke family and I went out there because Boyke bought a 1970 Challenger parts car, and we tore it all apart and salvaged a few things for the Challenger he was restoring. FYI, it is 34 years later, and it still isn't restored. The lake house was the place for horny teenage boys looking to touch a bare breast. Not sure if he'll ever acknowledge this, but he had the key to it copied, and he gave all of us one. Yeah, Boyke, you know it's true. A big song at the time was Love Shack, and so we dubbed it that whenever we referred to it. It also was a great place to drink a lot of beer, a constant theme for a very long time. It didn't matter what time of the year it was. We had a house with a wood stove, bedrooms, a full kitchen, running water, and a bathroom. Sure, the house reeked of mildew because it was built on the ground, but to us, it smelled of freedom. I vividly remember us borrowing a keg of green beer from the high school. The faculty had a St. Patrick's party, and one of us noticed it at the end of a school day. So we put it in the trunk of one of our cars, and being it was still cold weather, we took it to the lake house and put it in the lake to chill it while we waited for Friday. We went out there and drank all the green beer we could handle. Ha! I so remember our friend John B. aka Jellybean sitting on the dock with a huge cup of green beer with a grin from ear to ear. When it got warmer and we couldn't put the keg in the water, we simply moved a few shelves in the refrigerator and made the keg fit in there. We had a functioning fridge that kept our beer cold. God, this country is great. There were only 3 rules at the lake house. 1, don't die. 2, don't sit in the old rocking chair he was breastfed in. 3, no glass of any kind. One time, we had a hammock set up, and we wanted to see how many people it would hold before it ripped apart. I think we had 6 kids on it before it finally broke. 95% of the time, we had campfires down there, either for warmth or ambiance. One night, our friend Jimmy E. was so drunk, he freaking fell in the fire. Now, he was not hurt at all, but the shock of it sobered him up real quick. After we all made sure he was okie dokie, we all busted out laughing out of control. During the summer months, a bunch of us, from school and people we deemed cool from our jobs, would go out there and just chill in the lake. It was in the flight path of incoming jets that were landing at Charlotte Douglas Airport. We would just marinate in our inner tubes and look up at the planes and talk about our futures. Good times. A group of us liked maintaining it, matter of fact, Scott F., who is in this photo, and I would go down there and do some stuff like trimming and mowing, and then make an excuse to take a break to drink ice-cold beer we had chilling in the refrigerator. This was before every imaginable area by a body of water was developed, so it was at the end of a gravel, I mean dirt road. Anyone wanting to try this, for the love of God, please don't. One of our friends drove an old 1969 Thunderbird with a freaking huge 429 cubic inch V8. To everyone reading this that are not into cars, that was a huge V8, and matter of fact, it was one of the biggest engines Ford made that year. Anyways, we thought it would be a great idea to have someone hold a rope while in the trunk, with one of us holding the other end on a freaking go-kart. Tim would stomp on the gas, and someone would hold the rope with one hand and the other one steering the freaking go-kart. Oh, and did I mention that the go-kart had a single strap around one of the wheels as a brake? It is a wonder one of us was not killed. Imagine a huge Thunderbird going down a dirt road with a kid in the trunk holding a rope that another kid on a go-kart was holding and steering. Bad idea, I know, but it was fun at the time. Oh, and Mark S. still holds the record of going 55 miles per hour.
1992 to 1998.
We all sort of went our separate ways with college and stuff. I went to the local community college and was sort of in charge of maintaining it. In a way, I nominated myself to do it because I kinda like mowing the lawn. Boyke and I remained close while he went to Virginia Tech, 3 hours away. Thanks to him, I had a bunch of new friends, and we continued to use the lake house as our social gathering place. Every chance he got, he and his friends would come down to the lake house. He would say, "When you see Joe's Mustang, make a right onto our road. Mill Pond. FYI." Joe's Mustang was an actual store. Some of his friends thought that it was a guy named Joe with a Mustang in the front yard. Ha! In the summer of '93, he was still dating the girl he knew in high school. At one of the parties, the cops came. Shocker, huh? Ha! I am giggling as I type this. Well, the cop was walking around, seeing all the underage drinking going on, and was looking for the owner of the property to give the "break this party up now" speech. He went into the house, and there was Boyke buck naked. Ha! And the cop asked, "Boy, why are you naked?" One of the greatest lines ever. At one party, there were a bunch of our old high school buddies there. The house across the cove had a fiberglass life-sized cow. Well, I remember Pat P. and a few other guys swimming over and getting it. We spent the rest of the night taking turns riding it. I remember Carlton H. pushing it through the door and riding it like it was bucking, and he was a cowboy at a rodeo holding on for dear life. A few weeks later, Boyke and our friend Anna Rose tied it up to my mailbox with hopes it would fire up my dad. Well, Boyke, Big Ron calmly told me the next morning that there was a fiberglass cow tied up to our mailbox. We thought about what we can do about returning it. That evening, Dad and I drove my Nissan truck, aka the Black Widow, to your lake house and put it on the dock for the owners to see it and reclaim it. Then we went and got ice cream. Ha! Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Being that I lived in town, I was in charge of returning the keg. My brother's friend from college, Ann, told me years later that the first time she met me was when I pulled up to my house with an empty keg in the back of my truck, looking like death. I am saying I was probably coming back from one of those lake house parties. We still talk about it when we see each other to this day, is when Boyke brought down his new friend who I did not know. He was a really tall white guy with a huge white man afro. Well, after smoking left-handed cigarettes for hours, he comes out to the dock and proclaims that he is an expert kneeboarder. I was like, who is this clown? So you know, Boyke had a boat by then, not a good one. But we did not care. It was a boat, dude. Anyways, so he tells all that. He will be extra cool by doing a dock start, which is when you start on dry land and ski, wake, or kneeboard onto the water. Now mind you, he is doing all of this while looking all professional in a wetsuit. He straps into the board and instructs Boyke to drive out so there is no slack in the rope. Then the magic happened. Ha! He gave the call for Boyke to hit it, and when he did, Todd went headfirst into the water and held onto the rope for a few seconds. This caused him to be dragged farther out, so you know he was still underwater when this was all happening. We all died laughing, and when he finally came up, he swam back to shore and walked back into the house. I do not think I saw him again for the whole weekend. It was one of the funniest moments ever. Speaking of Boyke's crappy boat, at one point, Fassie, Joe W. and I took it to a bar restaurant, T-Bones, on the lake. It had an outdoor bar, and it was packed. We were all too cool because we had a boat, dang nabbit. Where was I? Oh yeah, we docked it right next to a really nice one, and would talk to some super hot girls and tell them to look out at the dock and check out what we came over in. They pointed to the nice one and asked us, "Is that the one you came over in?" And we all shook our heads, no, and pointed out the crappy boat next to it. That's our boat right next to it. Needless to say, we did not impress them, but we didn't care. We had a boat, dude. We also utilized the boat to hone our water skiing skills. Sure, it had a freaking styrofoam block we found somewhere as a seat, and the back of the boat had to be fortified by metal beams from an old power line that Mr. Williamson had lying around to hold it together. But it allowed us to water ski, naked sometimes, and be cool by driving it over to a party. Missy's mom lived in the same cove, and when she was out of town, we always showed up. Looking back, it's funny how that worked. We were totally rad because we had a boat and we docked it and proceeded to claim we were pirates and walk around with a shirt wrapped around our torso like a banana hammock.
We interrupt this program to bring you a very random thought from Andy.
During this time, Boyke started throwing a 4th of July party. He would have new friends we made recently. Shout out to Anna Rose, kids he met in college, old high school friends, family, or just anyone he knew. To come out to the lake, camp out, drink cheap beer, and marinate in old truck tire, inner tubes out in the lake. Cripes, he didn't care who it was. All is welcome was his motto. In 1993, we were commissioned by his parents to replace the top of the dock. He brought his girlfriend at the time, who I called Ragdoll, and his parents came out too. It was lunchtime, and like 30 years ago, there was not much out in Lake Wylie except for a KFC. Well, they started advertising a few months prior that they were serving chicken wings. Being from near Buffalo, New York, This sparked my curiosity, so I proclaimed to Mr. and Mrs. Boyke to get lots of wings. Well, they did, and I had like 2 of them because they were so disgusting. I sure hope their wings are better now. Anyways, the Boyke clan has never let me forget that. I do not blame them. They wasted money on wings that I deemed nasty. Therefore, I only ate 2. On a side note, I directly think this event began the downward spiral of KFC. One time, Boyke, Anna Rose, and I were chilling on his recently bought boat trailer while the party raged, and we all were wondering who were some of the people there. It was a cornucopia of humanity. Another time, Anna Rose, Boyke, and I were out cruising on my new to me, 1977 Mastercraft after a few days of heavy rain. You see, when there is a ton of rain, the lake rises very fast, and things like floating docks lose their anchors and float in the middle of the lake, and there was a new floating dock just for the picking. The one we had, if I recall, we found that too. Looked as beat as Tina Turner after a night with Ike. So we tied it up to my boat and dragged it back. Never mind, it was on the other side of the lake, and I could only do 1 mile per hour. It took us 4 hours to get back, but we had a new floating dock. To show how much of an ass I was then, I am pretty sure this happened at the same party. I liked to set up my site right by the water so I could wake up looking at a great view. At the time, I was driving a Ford Ranger. There were a bunch of people around it just having a good time. There was this one kid leaning on it. I am sure he was a really nice guy, but I was not a fan of this. He asked me, "You having a good time?" And I snapped back, "I'd be having a better time if you stopped leaning on my truck." Everyone got silent and could not believe I said that. I kinda knew I was going to get beat down, but I was cool with it. He lost his composure and was about to kick my butt when a few others restrained him. My friend Jeff was there and witnessed the whole thing. He still brings it up when I see him. In the summer of 1995, we had a really bad thunderstorm, and Boyke informed me that a huge tree had fallen on the house. Mr. Boyke, Mike, and Suzanne M., the girl I was messing around with at the time, went out there to survey the damage. Per Mr. Boyke, it was a loss. Plus, he and the Mrs. Always were not huge fans of the sketchy building. Like I mentioned before, she, in particular, was not big on the musty smell it always had because it was built on the ground. They decided to just tear it down and just have it as an empty lot. So they collected the insurance money and paid Boyke and I to tear it down. So when he was on Christmas break, we did a little. Then on spring break, we burned down the rest. FYI, demolishing stuff rules. We did not have a house, but we still had the lake property. We just had to set up tents now. No biggie. For the rest of the 90s, he threw some great parties. A party that will always stick out as one of the best ever was the July 4th, 1998 one. I had my own boat, a steady girlfriend, and more new friends. This was one of the first years I met Thompson. He is the smartest man I know. He freaking knows everything. He drove his dad's huge Dodge van, and instead of taking my boat to see the fireworks, we all piled into the van.
2002 to 2007.
From 1999 to 2001, I was in Wisconsin. I really don't like talking about it, but if you need to know the 411, you are in luck because back in 2010, I wrote it all down. Heck, I love the lake so much that I freaking named a dog after it. So in 2002, I moved down to some apartments by Lake Wylie, and thanks to my future sister-in-law, I had a super-duper nice boat. Woo-hoo! I was not even a mile away from the lakeland and only 2 miles away from a boat ramp to put it in. On a side note, I would haul the boat down to the ramp with my truck, put my bike in the boat, put the boat in the lake, drive it over to Lakeland, dock it, and ride my bike back to the ramp to get my truck. Dudazillas, I had it down to a science. On another side note, if you ever want to see a great verbal fight between a man and a woman, just hang out at a boat landing. I saw some great fights there, man in the boat.
Go straight in. No. Don't turn the wheel.
Woman in the truck backing into the water.
Dan, stop yelling at me!
Man.
Pull out and try it again. This time just straight back.
Woman.
What did you say? Straighten it up?
Man.
Damn it, Suzanne. Back straight in.
To show what a great guy Mr. Boyke was, he would pay me to mow the grass down at Lakeland. He also paid me to clean his office. He knew I was coming back to Charlotte with my tail between my legs. And with those little things he did, made it easier for me. God, I miss him. Okie dokie. Enough of me whining. Being I lived so close to Lakeland, after work, I would ride my bike over to it and do yard work with anticipation of the 4th of July party, raking up gumballs and working all frustration that some people at work, Angela G., I am looking at you, caused me. I knew that July 4th was going to happen, and it never disappointed. In 2004, some old friends came down, Mr. and Mrs. Williamson. If you don't know, Mr. Williamson was never too shy to say what was on his mind. I told him that I was dating a girl named Amber, and he replied with a big grin, "What? She, a stripper with that name?" I told her what he said when she got there, and without hesitation, went right up to him and said, "What? So you saying I can't be a stripper?" FYI. It was the only time I saw the man speechless. I told that story at his memorial service and got people who knew him well to laugh out loud. Like I mentioned before, beer was a constant theme for a very long time, and we did our part to recycle. Hell, who am I kidding? We put all the cans in one barrel to make it easier to take it to the scrapyard and get money. We would float out in the cove with a cooler of beer. When a beer was empty, we would fill the can full of water and attempt to throw it in the barrel we had on shore. I think through the years, there were 3 successful attempts. I know I never made it. Matter of fact, I sliced my finger and had to have my friend Marianne bandage it up. FYI, she had a lit cigarette hanging from her lips the whole time. One year, Jeff, yes, he lived in a freaking teepee, and my old college roommate Dave, and I got a floating buoy. If I recall, it was the last night we were there that year. We all piled in my boat and watched the fireworks. On our way back, we noticed a floating buoy in the middle of the cove. I dropped everyone off at Lakeland and we went back and got it. That thing was a heavy sucker too. We brought it back and posed with it like it was a huge trophy. I had so many good memories there that I had my friend Anne paint an old picture of it, and it is in my kitchen here at Casa de McBride. Now I need GPS just to see where I am when I go there. So much has changed, and it is all built up. Eventually, the Boykes gave part of the land to their son Matthew. He and his family built a house there. I only have been there once, when Wiley, my dog, went to doggy heaven, and her mum was so sweet to send me some of her ashes. I made it a point to spread some of the ashes here at Casa de McBride, and while having to listen to Matthew's first wife blabber non-stop, I went to Lakeland and spread the rest of her ashes there. In conclusion, I had a blast going down memory lane, which was awesome, and I know I forgot stuff, and I apologize. These are things I remember. So if you think of anything different, any other great memories that I forgot, feel free to put them in the comments or email them to me. Okie dokie.
Will Andy ever stop getting random tools that have less than 1% of ever being used? Will he ever not drink a cup of coffee while he's working on something? Will he ever answer the question, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Will he take an afternoon nap? Tune in for another thrilling episode of the Casa de McBride Chronicles to find out more. Ladies and gentlemen, Andy has left the building. Good night.
He will always be the king no matter what.